Herzlich willkommen zum 38. DOK.fest München hier aus dem Silbersaal. A very warm welcome to the 38th DOK.fest Munich here from the Silbersaal, wherever you might be watching or listening to us. My name is Daniel Lang. I'm a filmmaker and educator, and I'm very happy to present the film And the King Said, What a Fantastic Machine, by Axel Danielson and Maximilian van Aertryck, who I have with me today. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
This is your debut film, your debut feature-length film, and you made a short together before, 10 Meter Tower, which was a huge success. How did you sort of go from the short film to this long film or feature film format, and find the idea to make a film about images, about, I don't know, the history of photography and the history of the moving image, to like basically the universe and everything. How did it sort of come about?
Well, it's the first feature, the first joint feature film that we do together. Mm-hmm. So we both done feature-length films on our own. But since like 10 years back, we've been working as almost like a dual processor in a computer kind of filmmaking, where we basically make all the decisions together, or both the directing, the producing, the editing, and cinematography. We do it together by using our strengths, different strengths that we have. I mean, this all started, this whole project started with both of us and our company, Platform Produktion, a small, like a collective company based in Gothenburg. We've been very, very interested in how the photographic image and the camera, how it affects society, mm-hmm. and how it affects the point of view of ourselves and the other, and our idea of the world. We have been that since many, many years. And since the event of YouTube in 2007-8, when you started to, people could put up material and film clips, and all of a sudden that became like almost like an archive of human, how humans interact in front of the camera, and also we like a reference bank of how things actually look when they're about to happen, instead of like often on TV or in cinema, it is could be fictionalized in a way. So we used YouTube as a kind of a resource to see how things actually play out. Mm-hmm. And during this process, we've been sending each other film clips for like a 10 or 15 year period. And those clips were always having like two different directions. Either it was that somebody acted really, really funny or touching in front of the camera because there's a camera in the room. So it's like the interaction between, there is a camera in the room, this is how we look like when we're about to act upon this situation with a camera in the room. Like we are now very aware of that there is a camera right there. It's framing like this. I have to act in a certain way in front of the camera. It's saving everything. So this is one situation, and the other is that when the camera has been able to capture something very human that plays out, because the camera is so good at catching these moments of how things actually play out and how we interact between one another. And also, every image will say something about the one behind the camera. Mm-hmm. So if we find these images where you can see as much as what happens in front of the camera as what you can see that what's the intentions behind this image. So we have been doing for many years, and then about 5 years ago we were at Swedish television making a film about when the biggest evening news program are producing the news for an evening. We found a really interesting space where in between, when the news anchors are presenting the news, when they're very serious, reading from the teleprompter, and then the news reel go on from somewhere, and they relax. They relax in the studio, talk about other things for those minutes, and then they go into the role again, doing what they're doing in front of the camera. And we found this material really interesting when you go in and out of the role. We could get hold of the raw material that was playing out there. So it started with this, and we actually did a short also with this material. So this was the core idea. But this was also in the time when Donald Trump got into office in the White House, and things were like exploding when it comes to this device as a tool of conveying the world. And we really was like, oh, okay, we need to step back and look at the photographic image. If we want to understand what this is today, we need to step back and look at the photographic image in whole. And that's what we did. And yeah, you can continue, Max.
Yeah. So once we had decided to have this, to widen our lens and have this really ambitious project of trying to analyze how cameras and the photographic image, how they influence us, the biggest challenge was, of course, to choose what to have in the film and what to exclude, because the potential footage of the film with everything that has ever been photographed or filmed back 150 years. But what was very handy was that we had already, as Axel mentioned, had a collection of some really funny or scary moments that had been captured because of our many years of interest for this. And then I think the biggest challenge was to find a structure for the film that would work. To also know, it's the first time we worked with the voiceover, to know how to weave in the narrator into the film. But very soon, two kind of main arcs emerged, where one was a historical arc. So we actually figured out that if to make a film about the camera, we kind of maybe have to start in the camera obscura at the very beginning to explain, or not explain, but to actually show that image is a natural phenomenon. But another arc was much more associative, where me and Axel could collide different images together that would create new, interesting thoughts to kind of try to formulate what this whole media landscape, this modern media landscape, how it's constructed and how it affects us.
How did you work? Like, did you have a script, or did you edit like scenes and then send them to each other, or did you edit together? How did the film grow?
I mean, in a way, it's we kind of collected all these golden nuggets that we collected during the years, and also from shooting ourselves. We collected this in sort of a bag, and maybe 5 years ago, we spread out this on a table, like all these golden nuggets, and said, okay, what do we have here? We set the aim for, like, we want to have all these in the same film, because they're all about the camera and the interaction between human and the camera. So, and then the structure was really like, what happens if these two go together? What happens in your mind when you see these two together? What happens in when you see these two. And then we maybe 1 year before the film was finished, we started working with Mikael C. Karlsson. He's another part of Platform Produktion. He just came off the editing of Triangle of Sadness together with Ruben Östlund, who's also part of our company. And then he jumped on our project, and he's really, really good at structuring material. So in a way, we threw in so much that we want to talk about. We want to talk about perspective. We want to talk about framing. We want to talk about rhythm. We want to talk about, so we threw in all of these things, and he very calmly helped us to structure this in a way. And then, of course, structuring, then you also discover the gaps. Like, oh, here is a gap. We don't talk anything about this. Then let's go research this specific image or this specific topic. And a lot of the material that is in the film is something that we've seen glimpses of and found really interesting and want to follow up on. For example, there is this scene where there's ISIS warriors from Yemen making a propaganda film. That was like actually in the news. They showed like 15 seconds of these ISIS warriors raw material where you can see them, they're rehearsing a speech, and they lose it and try again and lose it, and they have a little try to memorize what am I supposed to say. And in the news, it was set up like, look at ISIS warriors bloopers, very funny, like a small, something you should just laugh at and go on. So we got hold of the raw material from this through a researcher based in the United States, and got hold of, I think it was 25 minutes of this raw material, and got it translated, and could actually watch at the material and say, what happens if you stay with this scene for a longer time? What happens in your mind as an audience when you pass through the first layer of this is funny, and then it becomes the camera does something. It catches something that is extremely human, and at the same time, both the ISIS and the Western media want us not to see that. It was just they want only us to see the surface. So all of this, when we find a glimpse of something interesting, we would tend to reel that in and look at that raw material and see, can we make a scene out of this?
And how did you actually collaborate in the process? Are you together in the same room? Are you how does it work? Because it seems to be something positive for you, your collaboration. What is it? What is the secret basically between when you two work together?
I mean, I would say it's really a common excitement for the same kind of core that we're looking for in the images. And this film is a very good example of it, and 10 Minute Tower as well, is that for us, the images always come first. We have to be very, very interested in what's playing out in front of the camera. And a lot of this film was editing, but maybe even more was researching and actually finding those archival scenes. And something I think that is a very strong bond between us is that if we don't live in the same city, so when we look at archival footage, it's always, or mostly always, each in their own offices. But if we do that and then we talk to each other, we will always have the exact same moment that we say, this was the moment we want to have in the film. And this excitement for what you've seen is, I think, a very, very strong bond.
So you've got a huge amount of material, you're collected over many years in your archive. How difficult was it to clear the rights?
Well, I mean, I would say that the most difficult thing was to sometimes find the right holders, because a lot of this footage, especially the one that's from the early years of YouTube, all you have is a pseudonym and maybe some MySpace email address. But actually, every image has so much information in it that you can play kind of internet detective, and at the end, you find them. So, I mean, that was a huge part of the work, of course.
What I think is also interesting is that we found out that the older the material, the more expensive and more controlled are the structure around the rights. But when you come to YouTubers, for example, the YouTubers that are in the end of the film, like Belle Delphine or Ice Poseidon, and they would just go, yeah, sure, just use it. You can have it for free, because their economy is somewhere else than in getting money for their images. So it's like you can really feel that there's there's a paradigm going on between the point of view of rights and who owns what. If you work on internet as your platform, or if you're used to the older analog world.
You mentioned it before, but the use of voiceover is really important because it holds the film in a way together. It sort of builds bridges. How did you work on the voiceover? And when did you decide, oh, I'm going to speak it myself?
It was, I mean, for us it was hard to take that step, because all the films were made, both produced and for others, and made ourselves as directors, maybe 8-9 films. There's not a single use of voiceover. So for us, it was like we tried for a long time to not use it. But then we came to this point where if we want to invite the audience to see things as we do, we need to give some context at certain places, just enough context so that you will be with us in the film. We found out that we just have now so much respect for for filmmakers using voiceover in a kind of artistic way, to try to not to speak about what you see or try to drive the story in front of you, but to like use it in a balanced way. It was super hard. I mean, it was super much job to, and in the end, you weigh each word in a scale. Should this be this word, or this be this word? And using Maximilian's voice was like a dummy voice that we used during the work, and then when we screened it in different countries and for different audiences, for like test screenings and stuff like that, we found out that it was the right voice. It was really, we tried with other voices, and we found out that this is what we want to use, even though it started out as a dummy voice.
How have, like, you've shown the film at festivals, how has the audience reacted to the film? Like, and has there been a difference between like younger audience members and older audience members?
I mean, thankfully the reactions are really, really good, and it is something that we thought about as we were making the film, that actually individual screens. And by making this film, we're actually kind of inviting the audience to have this collective experience of looking at them together and reacting to them together, and hopefully then going out to the cinema and discussing them together. So that is something that audiences are reacting to very well. And we had one particularly amazing screening at the Berlinale, because it was around 800 school children that came. You know, they were around 14 plus. And there you could really hear how different pockets of the audiences were reacting to different images differently, because some people had seen this particular clip, others had seen that. And there were also a lot of teachers there. And so in a way, it's a film that we hope can bridge some kind of gap between generations, because the older you are today, maybe the less you know about the very, very modern media landscape, but you know about older references, and you know about Leni Riefenstahl or the advent of satellite TV and the culture wars, you know. And younger generations, while they might know everything about, you know, all the YouTubers, they kind of maybe lack this historical context. So it's really about contextualizing images, because that really creates more understanding for them.
Are there any new projects that you're going to direct collaboratively in the near future, or that you're working on?
Yeah, we have. I mean, during this year, we have, due to the responses we've gotten from both at Sundance and Berlinale and different screenings from the younger, of course, older audiences, but the younger. What surprises us in a good way is the response from the younger audiences, and we have now a huge project where we want to. For the next school year, try to get every 15-year-old in Sweden to watch the film in something called school cinema. So we want to bring them into this room to start this discussion about media literacy. Because in Sweden and I think in most countries in the world now, actually through UN with UNESCO, it's connected to democracy. The photographic image and the use of this technology is strongly connected to the future of the possibility of democracy. It's something that we really want to put this is what we put on the table for this. And this will take up a lot of time to organize all this, to get all these kids to go to the cinema to watch the film. And when it comes to other film projects, we have one project that is going to be about the brain. That the starting point for that is that we shot 3 surgeries of awake brain surgery. When the patient is awake, talking to the surgeon, and there becomes these images of a person. The whole personality is there in this person, but there's also somebody up here making the surgery that can all of a sudden they map out where to stop the surgery. And they close off the personality at certain points where they stop talking or stop singing or whatever they do. And this is the core of humanity, that we want to make a film with the center is the brain. And the other film is about money and the disposition of wealth in the world, and how humankind has for so many times tried to find ways for equality in society, and how this has been rejected, and how these rejections have been how we look as society when we make these rejections and talk for society to be in a certain way.
We very much look forward. We're looking forward to watching your future projects, and good luck with the school project. I think it's really exciting and really important. Thank you, Axel. Thank you, Max. Thank you for the fantastic film. The film is nominated for the Kino Audience Award. And if you, our dear audience, like the film, you can vote for it online. Axel and Max, thank you very much, and goodbye.
Thank you for having us.